Back in 2002, when we finished Morrowind, and we started thinking about the sequel, we decided that we wanted to go next gen right away. We were going to go think high, think big, and do it early. So we specifically designed Oblivion for the next generation platforms, the Xbox 360, and obviously the high-end PCs. I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, we're designing for a platform that doesn't exist yet. And we started, you know, 3 years ago. We spent the entire first year purely on technology. We use a crazy amount of shaders. Everything in the game is either enhanced or created by shaders in some form. All the objects in the world are hand-created. They have tons of textures where we use parallax mapping, normal maps, specular maps. It's pretty insane. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And that was our main goal, was to create, you know, the quintessential RPG for the next generation. It's stuff that we couldn't do with the last generation. Fully featured forests, 24/7 AI scheduling, and just really bloody, visceral combat. Oblivion takes place in Cyrodiil, which is the main province in Tamriel, the world that the Elder Scrolls is set in. The Emperor has been assassinated, his heirs have all been lost, and it's up to you to find his lost heir and seal the Oblivion gates, these barriers that have broken down between Oblivion, which is the Elder Scrolls version of Hell, and the world. And so these gates are now opening up all over the place. Demons are pillaging and destroying cities, and the only way to close that covenant back again, seal that broken covenant, is to find his lost heir. So that's the main plot of the main quest. The key feature to the Elder Scrolls series, I think that the fans love the most, is the freedom to do anything you want, to be anything you want. And that remains true with Oblivion. You know, it's one of those things where we designed the game so that we designed Oblivion so that you don't even need to look at your stat sheet if you don't want to. You get right in the game, the action starts right away, you can do anything you want. You can pick anything up you want, you can talk to anyone you want, you can kill anyone you want. Oblivion uses a skill-based RPG system, so basically the way you improve your skills is to do more of it. And in that way, it's very unique in that you don't earn experience points, you don't have to assign points anywhere. If you want to get better at certain things, you just do it a lot. One of our major features in Oblivion is this new AI system called Radiant AI. It allows us to give NPCs 24/7 schedules. They have their own motivations, they have their own desires. Essentially, rather than hand script every NPC's schedule, we have a system that implements it across the board. You know, NPCs will sleep, they'll eat. If they feel the need to sleep, they'll look for a place to sleep. We don't have to tell them where to sleep. If they need to eat, the system includes follow-up behavior where they'll see if they have something that they can eat. If they can't, they'll look for something that they might own that they can eat. If they don't have that, they will go and buy food. If they have low responsibility, they may go out and steal it rather than buy it from the vendor. They may go out, if they're out in the forest, they may go kill a deer and to get the meat out of the deer or out of a creature. Or even, you know, go to a plant and get the ingredient out of the plant. But basically, our games are huge. I mean, they're absolutely enormous, and it's virtually impossible to hand script that kind of behavior, you know, for each of the 1,000 NPCs in the game. So we had, again, like the forests, we had to come up with a way to procedurally incorporate. We had to come up with a way to procedurally implement AI across the board, again, to the thousands of NPCs in the game. One of the things that Radiant AI does really well is dynamic conversations. NPCs, based on how they feel about each other, will talk to each other, and those conversations are dynamic. They'll never be the same. One of the ways a player can get a quest is walking through town. You overhear a conversation, and it's very fluid and natural the way it happens. You walk through town, you hear someone talk about Kvatch being attacked by Daedra, the demons in the Elder Scrolls. And then you'll find that if you talk to one of those people, you now have a new topic. You can ask them, could you please tell me about that Daedra attack? Talk to me about that conversation you just had, and you can get a quest that way. And that's the way a lot of the quests in the game are given to the player. You can go up to people and get quests, but you'll spend a lot of time in the taverns talking to barkeeps or listening to conversations, and you'll find out a lot of information about the game and get quests that way. In Oblivion, we streamline the interface as well. A lot of the information is there right at your fingertips. The stuff that you really want to know, like how much health does an item have, how successful am I at casting spells. So we have various pop-up windows, but we've really tried to streamline that data so that it's, the stuff that's actually useful to you, the stuff that you want to know immediately. Can I cast a spell? How much will it cost me to do it? As opposed to Morrowind, where you had to do a lot of math in your head to calculate your skill versus your mana versus your level. I mean, we took a lot of that out. We try to make it as user-friendly as possible. Mostly because it's one of those things where, in Morrowind, I actually preferred playing it on the Xbox versus the PC, just because you only have so many buttons, and it just felt better, to have the two controllers and the two sticks and moving around the world. And combat feels awesome on the 360 when you have the vibration on the controller, so it really adds to that visceral nature that we're trying to get. When somebody hits you, your controller shakes and you feel it, and your screen is shaking, and you feel like you've really been knocked over the head with a spike or with a weapon, and it feels just as good when you hit people back. So definitely, it's one of those things where, we started out, making PC RPGs, but moving over to the console is just awesome. It's just much more relaxing. It's a lot more fun to play, and play it on my big HD TV screen. I mean, so thanks for letting me tell you about Oblivion. I hope you all enjoy it, and please go out and buy it. So am I looking at the camera? Am I looking at you? I guess the answer is really just, I mean, do you need an answer for that? Or I will ramble on forever if you let me. Of course, you have it on tape, so now I'm screwed.
You're fired. You're going to jail.
That's right.
My name is Mr. Inafune. I work for Capcom. I am the producer of one of our new games, Dead Rising. This is actually a title for the Xbox 360. In this game, the main character is a photojournalist that is following a key incident he thinks will be the next big scoop for him. When he gets to a mall, he finds himself totally surrounded by tons and tons of zombies. That was one of the key concepts, is that we wanted to just make a game that is just chock full of zombies. And so he must, as he is stuck in this situation, survive at least 10 days in order to escape, and then hopefully get the big scoop. That is the main goal of the game. With this game, the main character finds himself stuck in this mall with all these zombies. He is just your average everyday Joe. He's a photojournalist. He's not somebody with intense military training. He's no superhero. He only has his camera when he first arrives on the scene. So he has to search the mall, find something that could be used for weapons, and then use those weapons to fight against the zombies. How you kill the zombies, what you choose to take as your weapons, is going to largely depend, or rather be limited on, the player's imagination. We were shooting for getting the most number of zombies on the screen that we could. Unfortunately, we right now only have alpha kits, and so that's only going to be about a third, a fourth of the power that the final units will actually have. So one of the biggest challenges was to take an alpha kit and make a game, or make a video, or rather for E3, that would represent what the final game would look like. And as you saw in the one scene at the end of the video, we have been able to achieve over 1,000 different enemies on the screen at one time. As this is a game that features zombies and it's by Capcom, it will invariably be compared to Resident Evil. Resident Evil itself is a great game that is based around sort of like total fear. It's got a sort of gothic touch to the graphics, and is got a main character that's just super cool. It's super dark. Whereas this game is totally in a different direction. What we wanted to create was a game that seemed real, i.e. the main character himself is nobody that looks cool. Matter of fact, one could even say he's ugly. So we did not want that sort of Hollywood super ultra fear to be the main concept. We wanted it to be how you can take this main average character, fight against these impossible odds, and beat them without any super cool Hollywood sort of moves. This is just your average everyday Joe trying to survive the situation he has been pitted against. So there's even sort of like a room for maybe some light comedic elements in the game itself. but it's definitely going to be totally in a different direction from what you have with Resident Evil. One area we were focusing on with this game is to try and give the player a lot of different scenes that could possibly occur. What we've done is kind of place an emphasis on the human dramatic element that occurs when people are stuck in these impossible circumstances, in this most likely a situation in which they are going to die. I personally feel that the zombies aren't the scariest things in this game. The scariest things in this game are going to be the people, because people, they have conscience, they have free will, they can act like your friend and then betray you. You do not know whether they are friend or foe. There's sort of an unknown element about human nature that we are going to play upon when we make this game. So this human drama that occurs in the game is going to be one key area. A lot of different characters you're going to see may have ulterior motives, they may not, but you as the player will have options of how you choose to interact with those characters. For example, the girl that you're leading. If she does trip, do you leave her there and save your own butt, pardon my French, or do you go back for her? Is there something to be gained by saving her? All of those are going to come down to have their own consequences, but they're going to be key choices that are offered to the player. That player has to decide how they want to take this main character and proceed through the game. For me as a person, or rather as a creator, I'm kind of, how should I put it, greedy. I want to make lots of different types of games with lots of different themes. Some for children, some based on history, some based on fantasy, some based on reality, some with zombies, some without zombies. I think probably a true creator has probably 100 different ideas in his mind, and of course he wants to proceed, or rather pursue, all of those ideas. Unfortunately, not everybody gets that opportunity. I am lucky enough to have had the chance to pursue a lot of my different ideas in the past. And with this game, what I wanted to do was make a zombie game. You know, we're Capcom, we're famous for Resident Evil games. I actually had a hand in one in the past. And so, therefore, this, I thought, was my chance to focus on a zombie game and try a new idea out for the first time. Right now, I'm currently in charge of overseeing all of the Capcom R&D projects. That in itself is a very busy task. So, while I would love to work on every single one of those, I have to kind of focus where I'm going to put my time and energy now that I'm responsible for everything. This game happens to be the one that I want to focus on, put my time and energy into. Thank you very much for your time. I know it's going to be a wonderful game. I know it's going to be a fresh gameplay experience that I think everybody can look forward to. You can look forward to it sometime, hopefully near launch. It may not come out exactly at launch, but we're working our best to get it out sooner than later. So hopefully at a very close time to when the Xbox 360 is launched, and that is, of course, the platform that will be launched for, the Xbox 360. So look for it, enjoy it, and thank you very much for your time.
The dead getting up and walking? Zombies. I'm not nuts though.
The game is very close to the movie in terms of emotion. We've been working a lot with Peter Jackson from the beginning. He really wanted us to be able to going deeper in this world, because he's been creating a complete world around King Kong, and I think he wants the player to be immersed in this world, and he wanted us to play both on the human side, you know, through the eyes of a human. So that's why we have a FPS view when you are a human, and then you can see Jack Black in front of you, you know, talk to him, and that's quite funny. And Naomi Watts too. And in the same time, so when you are a human, you are the prey in this big island. Skull Island, it's full of predators. You are the prey. But when you play King Kong, you are the big king of the island. You know, you are the biggest predator of the island, and that is giving a kind of dynamic, very funny dynamic, because you want to be Kong. You want to be, and then suddenly the game offers you the opportunity of being Kong and saving Anne, and that's interesting because it's creating this very powerful dynamic and different emotions and perceptions of the and vision of the same world. I think Peter Jackson is he knew that King Kong, there is something I would say subtle to express in King Kong. You know, it's the theme of Beauty and the Beast. You know, it's the big beast, but he's got heart, he's got a humanity. And I think he appreciated in Beyond Good and Evil, our previous game. He played this game. That's quite funny because during a meeting he said us that okay, he has played Beyond Good and Evil. He said that he thought that we could be able to express this humanity through sounds, music, situations, and all these things. And so I think that's the main thing, the main collaboration. We're having this incredible conceptual art from Weta, and when we were in New Zealand on the sets, people were doing the trees and all these things using the same conceptual arts as the one we were using for the game, and it was quite funny because we really share these materials. I think we had two sources of inspiration: the movie itself, the main scenes in the movie. People, they want to retrieve these scenes. You got mythic scenes, very important scenes that you want to retrieve in the game. But the game is, I would say, 10 times longer than the movie, maybe a bit less. But so we had to create new sequences, and then the source of inspiration is the world of Skull Island. You know, it's not just an island like that for a movie. Peter Jackson told us the story of this island centuries after. That's incredible. He's got, you know, this big history, the background, and all these things. So it's not just a movie; it's a world. I wanted to avoid every platform effects, every collectible. There's no interface. It's concrete. You can take things, you can burn them, throw them, spread the fire. You can take a spear, throw a spear to a creature and take it back while it's dying, and it's very concrete. You know, you don't carry tons of objects on you. It's very realistic. You know, there's no interface. Once someone is suffering, you see that he's suffering, and you understand the state without the life bar. So the game is very, I would say, in some point of view, is realistic. So when you are on the human side, your goal is to find Anne. In fact, that's a good story of the prince and the princess. So, but the bad guy is not really the bad guy, and that's the difference in King Kong. And when you reach them, it appears that King Kong is trying to defend Anne too. So when you play King Kong, you're trying to defend her from the other creatures. So it's very simple. It's about surviving. You know, if you don't move, you die. You don't have to collect things. It's just you have to survive. You got to move forward, because if you stay too much time in a place, predators will come and you will die. So if you want to know what will be the next, just move, just act. So it's very simple, in fact. Thank you for listening to me and the story of this big game, King Kong. Yeah! It's running now? No?
Right.
Okay.
So
It answers your question.
I got a feeling the clock is ticking.
Hi, my name is Frank Rook. I'm the lead game designer on Condemned Criminal Origins. Condemned Criminal Origins is a psychological thriller that uses two main types of gameplay that we're exploring that really define what it's all about. One of those things is the forensic investigation component, which uses a handful of forensic tools like a black light, a laser, a sampler, a 3D scanner, all kinds of things that you see on CSI, a lot of the criminal investigative shows on TV, really popular stuff. We combine that with this raw, kind of brutal combat system, which puts the player against AI with pipes, 2x4s, right in your face. And it's just got this kind of nice raw, brutal kind of feel to it, this visceral feel to it. Putting those two together really describe the kind of game that we're working on. Well, since you're tracking down a serial killer, typically serial killers leave a trail of bodies, but they also like to play around with you a little bit. You know, they drop little clues here and there to help, I don't know, just make a character out of themselves. And that's exactly what our serial killer is doing. You're working with a lab guy back in the lab. They do all the kind of scientific research and analysis. They give you back important information about that. And between the two of you, you figure out what that particular piece of evidence means. From that, you can build off of what you should do next. So it's really driving the player objectively, but it's also giving the player a lot of story elements. And it's a really popular way for us to tell a story outside of using like cutscenes or just giving the player outright objectives at the beginning of a mission. So it's unfolding really naturally to the player that way. One thing that we're really trying to take advantage of is the ability to make these really atmospheric environments. So the whole idea of tracking somebody or investigating a derelict kind of building that's got this really creepy feel to it, just that sensation of there's something else out there, there's something watching me, there's danger around every corner. Condemned Criminal Origins, I think, really takes a lot of its influence from a couple movies, and actually 3 movies that are really important for us. One of them is 7, and the thing that we draw from 7 is that dark kind of downward spiral that the protagonist takes. And of course it's got this serial killer portion to it also. But that's where Silence of the Lambs comes in. That movie is a really great methodical procedural kind of investigation done by the protagonist. And putting those 2 movies together really define our forensic element. Now, the enemies that you find in our game, we really drew a lot of inspiration from 28 Days Later. And that particular movie had that raw element. They were so just primal about how they reacted and how they attacked. Once you see elements from our games, you can see how that inspired us, influenced the directions that we chose. Player can come across a lot of pieces of debris, as well as what we call entry tools like axes and crowbars and sledgehammers and stuff like that. Debris weapons are like pipes and boards and locker doors and pieces of rebar scattered all over the universe. Player can access any one of those, and they each have their own strengths and weaknesses, which really play into how you want to have your combat with the enemy. The enemy also has access to all of these weapons. They can also sense or actually read what kind of weapon you have. So if you have a piece of rebar with a big chunk of concrete on it, which does a lot of damage, and they're walking around with a little board, they'll see that, and they'll just toss the board away and go running off and try and find a better weapon. Or just like get scared and run off and hide somewhere. And that actually describes a little bit about our AI. They don't always want to come at you and fight. They want to fight devious, and they want to take every advantage they can using the environment. And to complement the melee, we have firearms. We have a taser that the player can use. The taser will stun somebody. You can walk up, take their weapon away from them, and use it on them. It's a great way to disarm somebody that has a firearm and you only have a melee weapon. That in itself is kind of the definition of our combat component. That combined with our forensic now, which is all about using forensic tools, finding evidence and collecting it, it really balances out between combat and exploration. Thanks for letting me tell you about Condemned Criminal Origins. Look for the game in 2005.
Hi, I'm Cord Smith, producer at Pseudo Interactive, working on Full Auto for Xbox 360. Full Auto is the most destructive racing game ever. It's completely dynamic, emergent gameplay. It's a fully interactive world. Everything in the world you can destroy, damage, blow apart. I mean, it's all about amazingly fast cars, incredibly powerful weapons, and the ability to hybridize racing and combat in a way that people have never experienced before. We're not a kart racer. We're not cartoony. We don't have power-ups. We're visceral. We're in your face. We're raw. We're the most realistic world that we can possibly imagine at this time, and we're using every ounce of power of Xbox 360. We're really focusing on, the loud and natural, we want the weapons to be as realistic as possible. You're not going to find lasers, you're not going to find crazy stuff and plasma guns, right? We've concepted 20 cars right now, each with a very unique personality, different handling, different parameters, different weight system tuning. So you'll get a real sense that when you're driving them, oh, I'm driving the Vulcan now, or oh, I'm driving the Wraith. You can tell, both in sense of speed, etc. They also have different loadouts in terms of weapons, so you can only equip certain weapons on certain types of cars. So if you're really big and bulky, you might get the bigger weapons, but you're not going to get the pickup, you're not going to get the power slide, you know, you're not going to get that engine power that you get in an exotic sports car. You'll be unlocking new cars, you'll be unlocking new weapons, we're obviously introducing new threats. We have a 60 event career mode whereby you kind of go through the city. The fiction is that all these events are happening in one brutal day. I mean, this is the full auto. This is an organized event. It's like race or die. You have to survive these events. You've got to perform. You've got to take out your competition. As you do that, we introduce new cars that are better than you. We introduce new weapons that are better than you. You have to overcome those challenges to earn those weapons and earn those cars and then continue to use them. You can go back into the game, into previous tracks with those new elements and get a completely different experience. I mean, the Garment District wouldn't be the same if you're driving with a machine gun and a grenade launcher. If you go in with a shotgun and a missile launcher, suddenly it's a whole new ballgame.
Basically, we wanted a racing game where it's very, very easy to pick up and play. At the core, it's an arcade racing game. You're on a track, you don't have to explore, you don't have to free roam, you're right in the gameplay immediately. However, within that racetrack, there's so many different things to discover. You can take alternate paths, you can make alternate paths, you can force cars off one road, you can force them into the water, you can force them into buildings. It's amazing just how deep our world is, and we've never been able to do this in other racing games. So we've got 10 weapons in the game with 3 levels each, so we've got basically 30 weapons to put on your car. You can put any 2 of those weapons on the car that you like. So what we're finding developing the game is we're experimenting with different combinations of weapons, and that lends itself to different play styles. If you want a tank cannon and smoke screen, if you're that kind of player, or if you're more about the full-on offensive with machine guns and missiles, you just pick what you like and suit your car and your weapons to your style of play. We're going to start you off with a basic set of cars and a basic set of weapons, and in the first district in the city of Staunton, a fictional city that we've created. And then what you'll do is through the career mode, by completing events and surviving them, you're going to earn more cars, more weapons, and more tracks to race on. When you go online, you're going to expose your play style to every other person playing full auto, and you're going to have people possibly forming clans based on the fact that, you know, I'm a muscle car guy, or we're going up against the Importuners, and we're all going against the monster truck guys. So we're going to have a lot of people expose the depth of the game by going online. The highlight reels are a way of bragging about your accomplishments. You know, all of your best racing moments, all of your best destruction moments and combat moments are automatically compiled into a highlight reel that you can view at the end of the race. And you can save it to your hard drive and watch it in your living room, but you can also upload it to your Xbox Live account and share it with the rest of the full auto community. So you're going to get people compiling highlight reels with just crazy, crazy highlight packages. Some of them more geared towards stunts, others geared towards destruction, towards this weapon, towards that weapon, and people are going to see just how deep full auto is.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the technology behind full auto, and basically the areas that we think we're innovating in and the areas that we're pushing the envelope. Okay, so I think there's the 3 main areas that are fairly new or innovative in the technology right now. Number 1 is physics, and I think the main aspect that's really innovative there is we have a very cohesive system that governs the entire world. So everything you do interacts through the physics system, and that gives a player an unprecedented level of agency and power within the world to do whatever they want. So everything is destroyable. Everything responds physically. The physics affects the gameplay because things fall over you. You can shoot missiles into a building, and the building will tumble down and crush your opponents. The other areas that we've innovated in are the unwreck, which is basically being able to go back in time. This is a little bit like Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, but in the racing genre, and we find it it's really nice to be able to go through a race and take a lot of risks, and if you barely miss them, be able to undo that and go back and try them again. The final area that we're innovating in is presentation, and that goes beyond just graphics. I think a lot of it is the overall dynamics of the game, the way in which everything moves, everything reacts, and everything responds. Right now, the graphics are at a fairly early stage, especially the lighting, because we're working on non-final hardware, and we're looking at kind of the core gameplay strengths, core aspects of gameplay. But I think we're going to push the presentation way over the top. It's a very intense game, and we're going to make it so the player really feels like they're a hero by doing good camera shots, by doing over-the-top visuals, high contrast, HDR lighting, We're doing, of course, HD 1280 by 720 full screen anti-aliasing, which is, the image quality is going to be unsurpassed.
Downloadable content for sure, and for all those live users, oh my god, yeah, get ready. Full Auto is going to rock live. I mean, we've got 8-player support at least, at minimum. We've got arena modes, we've got the racing modes, we've got pursuit modes, we've got mini games. I mean, you can get on live and have a blast. And if you're not on live, you should be, but if you're not on live, offline you'll have 4-player split screen and you can go to town. I mean, Full Auto is a party in a box.